Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to 5 Minutes Tajweed with All Quran, where we strive to improve our recitation and appreciation of the Holy Book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Surah Al-Fatihah is one of the most, if not the most important surah in the Quran. It is the only surah that is obligatory to be read in every rakaat of our solah. Inshallah, today we will try to improve our recitation of Surah Al-Fatihah by taking note of these 22 pro tips. Let's go. Here is the first ayah of Surah Al-Fatihah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Pro tip number 1. The first common mistake is in the huruf ba over here. When we read it too fast, it will sound like this. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. We can hear that the huruf ba is missing, which may change the meaning of the ayah. So when we read this, remember to pronounce the huruf ba clearly. Pro tip number 2. In this ayah, we can see that the huruf ha and the huruf ha are quite close in proximity. Thus, pro readers will make effort to emphasize the differences between these two huruf. This is the correct way of reading, and pay close attention to the differences in the ha and the ha. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Pro tip number 3. The nun kasrah at the end of Ar-Rahmani is sometimes mispronounced as a dhamma, like this. Ar-Rahmanur Rahim. Ar-Rahmanur Rahim, which is wrong. So emphasize the kasrah here like this. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Pro tip number 4. Pro readers are very aware of the counts and pacing of their reading. A common mistake in reading Al-Fatihah is when readers tend to prolong the mad asli for too long, like this. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Instead, read it like this. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Here is the second ayah of Surah Al-Fatihah. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Pro tip number 5. At the beginning of the ayah, we see a lam with a sukun sign. A common mistake is to read it with a bounce, like this. Alhamdu, Alhamdu. Pro readers read it with a sukun, like this. Alhamdu, Alhamdu. Pro tip number 6. Again, since the ha and the ha are in close proximity, do emphasize their differences, like this. Alhamdulillahi, Alhamdulillahi. Pro tip number 7. In the kalimah Al-Alameen, do emphasize the sound of ain and to ensure that it does not sound like a hamza. This is the wrong way to read. Al-Alameen, Al-Alameen. This is the correct way of reading this. Al-Alameen, Al-Alameen. Pro tip number 8. There's nothing new here. Just emphasize the huruf ha, like this. الرحمن الرحيم الرحمن الرحيم. Pro tip number 9. Again, remember, do not extend the mad asli for too long. So the correct way of reading this is like this. Maliki yawmiddin. Maliki yawmiddin. Here is ayat 5 of Surah Al-Fatihah. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. Pro tip number 10. Take note of the tashdid or the shaddah on top of the huruf ya. When this occurs, the way of reading this is to emphasize the ya and then to release it like this. إياك نعبد وإياك إياك نعبد وإياك. A common mistake is to read it without the shaddah like this. إياك نعبد وإياك إياك نعبد وإياك. And this may change the meaning of the ayah. Pro tip number 11. A very common mistake is to read the dal at the end of the kalimah na'budu with a mad like this. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka. Instead, take note that the dal should only be read with one count and not with a mad. So this is the correct way to read it. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka إياك نعبد وإياك. Here is ayah 6. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. Pro tip number 12. The first kalimah of this verse is ihdina. Ihdina, which is to be read with a kasrah. Some reader will read it as ihdina, ihdina, which is incorrect. Pro tip number 13. Pro readers are careful, especially when the huruf with a sifat isti'la appear in front of a fathah. For example, here we find a nun fathah meeting the huruf sod, which has a sifah of isti'la. If we are not careful, we will read it like this. Ihdinas siratal Ihdinas siratal. The correct way of reading it is to ensure that we read the nun fathah first, then the sod like this. Ihdinas siratal Ihdinas siratal. Pro tip number 14. In the kalimah as-siratal can be sometimes read incorrectly as ihdinas siratal with a dha, or ihdinas siratal with a sin. We should read it with a sod like this. Ihdinas siratal Ihdinas siratal. Pro tip number 15. In the kalimah al-mustaqim, again, we find that the huruf isti'la comes after a huruf with a fathah sign. In this case, the huruf qaf comes after a ta' fathah. Thus, if we are not careful, we may read this kalimah incorrectly like this. Al-mustaqim Al-mustaqim. The right way to read this is to ensure that we have read the ta fathah first, then the qaf like this. Mustaqim Mustaqim. Here is ayah 7 of Surah Al-Fatihah. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Pro tip number 16. Pro readers are careful to differentiate the huruf dhal and huruf zay. In this kalima alladhina, it is commonly misread as allazina with a zay, which is incorrect. Instead, read it with a dhal like this: alladhina, alladhina. Pro tip 17. In the kalima an'amta, we notice that the huruf hamza and ain are in close proximity. Since they are very close in makhraj, pro readers tend to emphasize the differences between these two huruf like this: an'amta, an'amta. Pro tip number 18. Again, in the kalima an'amta, we find a nun sakinah. Pro readers are careful not to bounce the nun sakinah like this: an'amta, an'amta. Instead, it should be read like this: an'amta, an'amta. Pro tip 19. In the kalima ghayril, a common mistake is to read it with a kha instead, like this: khayril maghdubi, khayril maghdubi. Instead, read it with a ghain like this: ghayril maghdubi, ghayril maghdubi. Pro tip number 20. In the kalima al-maghdubi, avoid reading the ghain sakinah with an ain sakinah like this: ghayril ma'dubi, ghayril ma'dubi. Instead, read it with a ghain: ghayril maghdubi, ghayril maghdubi. Pro tip number 21. Pro readers are careful here, as there is a lam alif fatha which meets the huruf dot, which has a sifa isti'lah. Therefore, this should be read like this: waladda, waladda. The wrong way to read this is to read it with a dal like this: waladda, waladda. Or to be read like this: waladda, waladda. Pro tip number 22. Here in the kalima ad-dadlin, we have the hukum of mad lazim kilmi muthaqal. So the correct way to read this is to read the dot with a 6 harakah, the idgham, which is the l sound, to be 2 harakah, and the lin, which is the mad li sukun, should be 6 count. So it should be read like this: waladhdallin. Thank you for watching. Let me know if this video has benefited you, and if there's any part of tajweed that you would like to learn more of. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant all of us the shafa'at of Al-Quran and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam on the Day of Judgment, and grant us all firdaus bighayri hisab. Till next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.